Hey y'all, it's Anna B, and welcome back to the Social Health Initiative podcast. This is episode 2, the middle school perspective, and today I have with me my first ever special guest that I'll be interviewing today. It's my younger sister, Eva, and she is going to be a 7th grader in middle school this year, and she is someone who has managed to stay away from social media for this long, and I think I've got her on my train, and she's in for the long haul without the social media, but I'm basically just going to be interviewing her today, talking to you guys about what it's like to be a middle schooler without social media and any tips that she has from the middle school perspective for any middle schoolers out there or any parents of middle schoolers. This overall is just going to be an episode that will help you learn what it's like to be a part of social media or not be a part of social media from a middle schooler's perspective. Obviously, I've been in middle school before and have gone through the whole social media middle school thing, so I'll definitely have a chance to chime in a lot here, and I'll be asking her a majority of the questions. So you can trust everything that I say, but you also can definitely trust everything that she says in terms of the reality of the different perspectives that she shares, just because she's in the middle of middle school right now. So I think that this is just going to be a super valuable perspective for anyone to take a listen to. She is just going to talk about what it's like to be a middle schooler and what it's like to be a middle schooler without social media. So we'll go ahead and introduce her. This is Eva. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
And Eva, would you like to tell us what middle school is like right now for you? How are you feeling going into 7th grade?
I mean, it's good. I mean, I'm not the youngest in the school anymore, so
I'm sure that probably feels really good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cool. So right now, would you say that you have a lot of friends?
Yeah.
What all sports do you play?
Softball, volleyball, and hockey.
Are most of your friends because of those sports that you play?
Yes.
Do you have friends that don't play those sports that you're kind of friends with?
Yeah, a couple. A lot of my friends I've met during, theater. And, I've known them in my grade, but I never really have passed by and said, talked with them with a real conversation, but, yeah.
So, in general, being someone who's not on social media, all of the, relationships, quote-unquote, that you have with people are just from hanging out with them in person at all of your different sports?
Yeah, most of the time.
So now the big question is, do you ever feel left out among friends that are in your sports and things like that when it comes to missing out on things that might be on Snapchat or anything like that? And I guess to lead up to this, do a lot of your friends have Snapchat and have social medias?
Around, our grade, I'd say pretty much 3/4 of the grade has it. There is
Snapchat specifically?
Yeah. Okay. So there is a majority of the grade though that still doesn't have a phone, or they have restrictions and stuff like that. But personally in my friend group, I've seen a lot more come along with Snapchat, mostly from the girls who didn't really have to worry about asking their parents to get it. Kind of spreading it around so they can communicate more.
Mm-hmm. So in our house, would you like to share with listeners what our rules are for when you're allowed to get a phone and when you're allowed to get social media and those types of things?
Basically, our mom has a thing about wait till 8. And basically that's the theory of your frontal lobe doesn't create its entire self until you're in 8th grade or reach, 14 years old.
If I might just clarify, our mom believes in the brain development not it being fully developed by 8th grade, but for it to have developed enough to be able to make critical decisions on social media, just to clarify.
Yeah. So the wait till 8 basically is just saying, anything before that, your kid may not be fully smart about it, if that makes sense. They just don't have common or critical sense about it because, that frontal lobe isn't quite developed enough to realize things like that on social media. And
it's really easy for them to get addicted to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically we aren't allowed to get social media till about 8th grade. And our phone policy is about 12 or 6. I just got my first phone. I had an iPod before, but that was pretty much just for communicating my parents and my family after school and just to check on and make sure that I'm okay.
Would you say that all of these rules that we've kind of had have been hard to follow? Like, have you felt resentful at all? Like, wishing like, oh, if I had Snapchat, it would be so much easier to like make friends or hang out with people. Do you think your perspective has changed at all since you've now seen some of your friends getting social media apps and seeing how that's changing them, changing their behaviors? I guess, what is your perspective now, being someone who doesn't have Snapchat, seeing your friends fall into using social media?
Yeah, so, there's a part of me that's like, darn, I'm like, if only, right? But then, like, the majority of myself is like, has a lot more common sense, because I have two older sisters that's been through a lot in like the middle school and have very much shown me like, this is what happens with this. As much as like part of me wants it to, kind of fit in, basically, I know the dangers or the the just unhealthy part of it will affect me, and I've seen affect some of my friends.
Yeah. So I think something interesting that I kind of just thought of is you mentioned like having the example of like me and our older sister has helped you to realize the downsides of a lot of these social media platforms. Would you say that a lot of the people who do have social media right now are like the oldest, and maybe their parents just don't know enough to tell them not to because it's their first experience going through getting phones and things like that?
So a lot of what I've seen with my friends is, parents basically being weak. And nothing like against that. But, a lot of the times they've said, oh, I had to like beg my parents to give me this. Or, my parents, like, it took a long time for them to decide. And I think, like, for parents out there, if you're listening, just like know that it's okay to, say no. And, if your child has problems with, communicating with friends and stuff like that, there is still messages, there's still phone, there's FaceTime. Like, there's so many other platforms
that accomplish the same things that Snapchat does.
Exactly. And, half the time Snapchat doesn't even communicate. It's pictures of feet and pictures of ceilings, and it's very stupid. And in that fact,
exactly.
Yes.
Oh,
and
yes.
What gets me is a lot of the times my friends go, I go like, why? Because most of the time when I'm hanging out with some of my friends, they're sending snaps. I'm like, why'd you take a picture of the ceiling? I'm like, why don't you, take a funny picture? At least with one, like, a funny filter or something like that. She's like, oh, it's just to keep my snap streak up. I'm like, okay, so the entire platform is to keep your snap streak up? Like, I don't understand what the addicting part of that is, but I feel that, it's taking a different term of what Snapchat is really supposed to be.
I would totally agree with that. And like for me personally, which I kind of definitely hear you, talking about a lot, is the fact that now, because our mom has this wait till 8 rule, I mean, you're not even in 8th grade yet. Do you think that you are going to be someone who gets any type of social media, even like Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that, when you do get to 8th grade? Is that something that you are still interested in? And has our mom and parents making the decision to make you wait, to make me and my sisters wait, has that changed whether or not you even want to get Snapchat now that you see kind of what it's like?
I wouldn't say I really know the answer to that, because like right now, obviously I'm not in 8th grade. So I wouldn't know in 8th grade whether my brain would decide to get Snapchat or TikTok or any other Instagram platforms. That's honestly up to myself in 8th grade to decide. Currently right now, if I had the choice, if I did get it, not saying I wouldn't or would, but if I did, I would prevent myself from becoming, addicted and becoming that person that really uses it for the worthless part of the app.
Yeah. So in general, would you say that seeing your friends get Snapchat, seeing other people get Instagram and things like that, Do you think that it's changed your perspective of any kinds of friendships? And you don't have to be specific at all. I'm just intrigued. Do you see in middle school that since it is such a vulnerable time, completely changing anybody's personalities or the way that they treat other people, just in general?
That's kind of part of it. I wouldn't say they would treat people differently. And, there are some slight differences in what they could do about a situation or something. But more of how they spend their time around a friend or someone like that. The addiction of, Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok is constantly like you have to be on your phone in most people's minds. And I think that part of it is what, really wastes a lot of friendship time and a lot of, valuable time that you could rather be playing sports out in the yard or, making crafts in the kitchen and, having a lot of fun time with your friends. Instead, you're sitting in your bedroom watching your friends do all these silly snap pictures, really doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell all the people who already have Snapchat or Instagram or other social media platforms who are finding themselves lost, wanting to get rid of it, wishing that it didn't take up so much time, but feeling trapped now that they've joined the train?
I would tell them, find something other than social media platforms. Instead of it, being sitting on your phone, 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours of the day, make it be being outside for the entire day. It's summertime. You should limit your phone hours and, spending time in your room. And I really think maybe finding a hobby.
Because those tend to be such mind-numbing activities.
Yeah.
Find something that bring you that same amount of entertainment, but don't make you feel the same sense of, like, self-hatred at the end of it. Like, I can't believe I just spent all that time doing that. I wish I was doing something else.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so now the second part to this question is going to be, what would you want to say to everyone out there who is like you and is not getting Snapchat in the near future and is finding that it's either difficult to keep friendships, difficult to communicate with people? What's something that you would want to tell them?
So honestly, what helped me get through middle school, seeing a lot of the girls in my grade have iPhone 14s, even that, and Snapchat and a lot of this stuff that isn't really necessary at this age. What really helped me kind of overcome all of that is having a really good friend that doesn't even have a phone. And honestly, it's great because when we hang out, no phone involved. When we hang out, we're having fun, we're laughing, and I don't have to worry about her checking on her phone, checking her Instagram, making TikToks. And I tell everyone out there who doesn't have a phone or even doesn't have, access to social media platforms, just don't feel forced or obligated to do it because, you're not the only one, and two, you're going to feel worse than you did before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you think in general, befriending people who are like you and finding people who also don't have social media and things like that is generally going to be the best option if you're feeling left out or lonely?
Oh, totally. It even if you do have social media, if you're one that wants to get away from it or wants to limit your screen time, that's a great thing too. Even ask your parents, hey, take my phone for the day. Mm-hmm. Be phone free for the day and feel how much stuff you get done. Mm-hmm. And if you find yourself bored, go to your nearest park, go to a pool. There's so much other stuff you could do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And hey, if you also want to learn how to break yourself free from your phone, just check out some of the other content here on this podcast and on the Social Health Initiative Instagram. There's so many people out there who don't have Snapchat, who don't have Instagram, who don't have social media platforms, who are just looking for other people who feel the same way as them. And speaking from personal experience, and I tell Eva this all the time, I tell her about all my stories. When I did have Snapchat, the number of people that communicated with me on that app was crazy. It was more than had ever talked to me before when I didn't have Snapchat. And so I thought I had all of these great friends, and then I deleted Snapchat and realized that those weren't real friendships. And so just telling everyone out there, and I think both of us can speak to this, it is okay to weed out those toxic friendships that don't find any purpose beyond Snapchat. And so finding those other people who are like-minded like you, or finding other people whose parents just aren't letting them get social media yet, it's not the end of the world. There are those people out there. And I think that in general, the whole main idea of this middle school perspective is that you are not alone. And whether you're attached to your social media or not, there are people who want to help you. And if you realize that you're kind of noticing these trends, noticing maybe I'm the friend who's been attached to her phone and I'm losing other friends because of it who don't have a phone. It goes both ways. And I think that in general, it's just important that parents as well, you just kind of make sure you talk to your middle schooler. Middle schoolers, feel free to talk to your parents about it if it's something you're concerned about. But there's people who just want to talk to you and help you understand what social media is. The whole reason that our mom has the wait till 8 thing is just because she doesn't believe, and science proves that we're not mature enough to have social media at the ages of 10, 11, 12, and even 13. So I think that in general, it's just smart. Any parents out there or anyone who's trying to make the decision whether they should let their middle schooler have a phone, or not just a phone, but social media platforms, just do your research. Parents are the best judge of whether your child is ready or not, and don't let your child begging you be the breaking point that lets you do this, because it will probably send your child into more of a spiral than they might already be in, because middle school is a time where there is so much change going on in students' lives, and social media just really doesn't need to be one of those. Would you say that you kind of agree with all of that?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of, changes in a lot of the girls, after they've gotten social media.
No, and it is just such an influential time and such a time of change, and to throw on getting used to using social media and that pressure, that social pressure that comes with the street culture and social media culture in general is just, it's a lot to take in. I mean, I'm 17 sitting here and I still struggle sometimes with understanding the scope of everything, and the safety as well. I mean, safety is a huge concern, especially in these young kids. I mean, there is so much that goes down on these platforms that parents would never know about, and that's not to scare you, because, you do have to put some amount of trust in your child. But I think just in general, from what I've experienced using social media platforms, there's a lot of creeps out there. Not just that, but there's also just, middle school boys and things like that are going to test the limits, and Snapchat and these social media platforms are the prime example of, platforms that can be used for people to take advantage of others, building relationships that are unhealthy and toxic, all that kind of stuff. So I think, the safety of it too is definitely a big concern. Eva, do you have any friends that you ever talk to who, use social media for like talking to their, middle school boyfriends and stuff like that? And does that ever like concern you?
A lot of times I see my friends only talking to their relationship on text. Yeah. Or on Snapchat. Yeah. And that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Does Snapchat open up, these relationships to be basically just quote unquote Snapchat relationships? Or are they building actual like personable relationships? Or is it just all happening online?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I find that,
it's all happening online?
Mm-hmm. And I find that to where, they really get connected, but from my personal experience, you never talk in school because it's quote-unquote awkward. Mm-hmm. Your friends will make fun of you, right? So it makes you feel obligated to, just do it online or, on Snapchat. And that makes it honestly hard because, they get so attached to each other because they're quote-unquote boyfriend, girlfriend. And, by the time they break up, they had never really talked to each other.
Do you think it's a case of, like, the immediate gratification that comes from like the dopamine rush of getting a notification from your said boyfriend or something like that? Do you think that that's just not the same in person or anything like that? Like, I think a lot of the reason that people your age and middle school in general get attached to social media is because they are in a developmental stage where they're very susceptible to becoming addicted to things. And do you think that that's kind of the whole point, is like this rush of like, oh, I can't lose this streak with someone? It almost becomes like a competition. They're just very susceptible to be getting used to, you know, oh, it's just part of my routine now where I send my Snapchat to my boyfriend so I don't lose the streak. Do you think that that's kind of a big part of it?
I think so, but also, you know, again with the pressure.
Social pressure.
The social pressure, seeing like everyone in the grade is having a boyfriend, girlfriend, you know, relationship, and you know the pressure with social media, you know, is just making them seeing others as like they want to have the same happiness as them, you know, not even realizing they're 12 years old going on 13 and are still in middle school.
Yeah. So with that, you know, you say, oh, everyone's getting Snapchat, everyone has a boyfriend. Yeah. But I think it's important to note that it isn't everyone. It just seems like everyone because those are the people that get talked about.
Yeah.
So that, again, just goes back to find the people who are like, well, now they've got another boyfriend. I wonder if that's going to be a Snapchat relationship or not. Right? Find the other people who think similarly to you, because trust me, I assure you, it is not everyone. There are so many people who are rolling their eyes at all of this stuff, just like the two of us sitting here are. And so there's just find them, because if you're like, Mom, everyone has Snapchat. Mom, I need Snapchat. Everyone's got it. Mom, I need to have a Snapchat boyfriend, or dad, or whoever you're begging to, just know that it is not everyone.
Yeah.
And there are others out there, and you might, you know, have to shift some relationships, lose some friendships in the process, but at the end of the day, those who only care about their social media might not be the people who you're going to want to be friends with, because there's issues with, you know, maturity levels, and they're very susceptible to different things and addiction at that time. And, you know, you want to encourage people to remove themselves from that. If you see people who you're really worried about, talk to them, let them know how you're feeling, but also know that it's okay to remove yourself from those relationships for the time being and just find those other people. Yeah.
And another thing, you know, I've definitely always have had, you know, troubles with some of my friends along, you know, the way of, you know, growing up and stuff like that. But one thing I have noticed is a lot of my friends that, you know, don't have social media or you know, use it respectfully, where they're not constantly on it.
Because it is possible to do that.
Yes, yes.
It's very possible to be a good social media user.
Yes, which I definitely know a few of those people. But what I found is a lot of the people that, you know, don't either have a phone or don't have social media, or like I said, use social media responsibly, they're a lot more reliable on being a trustworthy friend and, you know, loyal to me. And a lot of the people that, you know, have Snapchat, I've noticed, you know, have come questionable to, like, do they actually really like me, or are they going behind my back, you know?
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts or anything else that you'd like to share before we kind of wrap up this episode?
I mean, you said there are some people, you know, out there rolling their eyes at this, or at, you know, a lot of the social media stuff, but there's also people out there probably listening to this, you know, that are rolling their eyes at us, which is, you know, unfortunate, because you could really take this into granted in having a healthier and more active life.
I think in general, you know, something that I preach on here is just being mindful. If you're someone who has Snapchat and you're worried about what others are going to think of you if you remove yourself from it, or Instagram or anything like that, I just want to send out my gratitude to you. Feel free to always reach out. I'm always willing to talk to people about, you know, trying their best to remove themselves from social media. If you are mature enough to recognize that your social media usage is becoming a problem, you are more than capable of teaching yourself and rewiring your brain to no longer be reliant on it. So don't let anything that we've said today make you feel bad. If anything, let it encourage you to want to take some action and rekindle any relationships that maybe you've lost because of social media or anything like that. So I really just want this episode to be encouraging for any middle schoolers out there if you happen to be listening to this. Teenagers also, it's the same exact situation, and I'm sure a lot of these issues will translate to high school life, and I can speak to that as I am a high schooler right now. But also parents who might be out there listening, it's just so important that you take the time to talk to your middle schooler, talk to your teenager, try and do your best to evaluate what their social media usage truly is, because I assure you it probably is, if anything, it's probably more than you think. And it's just important to educate your middle schoolers and your teenagers on why it's important to not be that person who's constantly attached to their phone.
Yeah. Even if you are someone that, thinks, well, I'm not that bad on my social media, I'm not constantly on it. You may not always be right, because what you think may be, not that bad is probably your normal, which to a lot of people who don't have social media is a lot. If you go on settings, there is like a screen time, that you can set up to not shut down your apps, but to, make
kind of
sure
help you realize
how
what
long
your usage really is,
how long you've been on your phone.
Yeah, and also this podcast is a very safe place for you to reach out to me. This is something that I just generally want to help people to help themselves feel better about their phone usage and social media usage. And so this is a very safe place. I want you to be honest with yourself and honest with people that maybe you're concerned about too, to just reach out and kind of direct them this way. I just want to help as many people as possible realize how their social media usage is not only affecting them, but definitely affecting other people. Because as we've talked about today, social media affects more than just the person who's using it, and I think that is probably one of the biggest takeaways of the whole middle school perspective and social media culture in middle schools right now.
Yep.
Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up there. That was an awesome conversation, and I hope you guys really enjoyed. Like I said, whether you're a middle school parent or a teenager or a young adult or anyone who's getting ready to have children in middle school, and especially if you're a middle schooler listening to this, just make sure that you really think about a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. If you're finding you have a lot of similarities, we'd love to hear from you. Make sure you reach out, and if you'd like to see Eva back on another episode to talk about more middle school stories, make sure you let me know as well, because she was awesome to talk to. I'm super excited to be kind of starting to have some guests here on the Social Health Initiative podcast. It just makes the conversation a lot better just to have multiple perspectives and to really just kind of have another person to solidify a lot of the opinions that I have, and have me to solidify a lot of opinions that other people may have as well. The guests here on this podcast are 100% just to be an educational device and something for you to learn from and just learn different perspectives from. In no way are me or Eva in our middle school and high school ages professionals in any of these situations. And if you really are struggling, make sure you seek help from a professional if that's something that you feel as though you need. But hopefully we were able to comfort you today, give you some tips on how you can make yourself better when it comes to social media, or just teach you a little bit about what social media is in middle schools and how it's affecting middle schoolers, because I know that's something that is super big these days. So with that, I'll go ahead and say thank you so much for watching. We hope you return for our next episode. Haven't decided what that is yet, but we'll say goodbye to Eva. Eva, any parting words?
Thank you so much for listening.
Oh yes, thank you so much for listening. I'm trying my best to train myself out of the whole YouTube. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That was very helpful.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it.
You did a very good job today.
Yeah.
Thanks. High five. Perfect. That noise was a high five.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eva. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in our next episode. Make sure you follow me and the Social Health Initiative on Instagram. You can find me at _Anna B, and Social Health Initiative at socialhealth.initiative. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Oh no,
that was so
uncoordinated.